Well, welcome to Bowling on a Friday. On the rare occasions that we do a guest, because guests are important, but I only said I want to do guests when they make a lot of sense. And this guy right here, not only does he make a lot of sense every time he speaks, I speak to him quite often. He's a very close friend of mine. Nate Fredman spent more than 16 years at Fox News. He started as a freelance production assistant, one of those guys that they used to send downstairs at Fox News, and we'll get to this in a second, for tapes. Where back in the day, back in the way old days, they actually kept all the old content on tapes in the basement of Fox News. Well, anyway, he's a production assistant working up to executive producer almost all of that time with Bill O'Reilly, The O'Reilly Factor, which was the #1 cable show on cable for the entire duration that Nate worked there, by the way. Nate led reporting trips to Iraq and Afghanistan and produced 3 presidential Super Bowl pregame interviews, 2 with Obama, 1 with Trump. And if you remember those pregame, Bill O'Reilly used to sit down with the president when the Super Bowl was on Fox News, and he got 2 with Obama and 1 with Trump. Always must-see TV, always for me as interesting as the game itself, usually. Nate spent almost 3 years as executive vice president of digital video at The Hill. He went from Fox News to The Hill, where he oversaw an exponential increase in YouTube views and revenue while focusing on their flagship show, digital show, by the way, Rising. And that was back in the day. That was when kind of like the early days of digital becoming such a powerhouse it has now. But currently Nate is an independent consultant working at the intersection of media, politics, and tech. Welcome, Nate Fredman. Nate, really good to have you, my friend. Thank you for coming on. For the folks who don't know, Nate and I have a long-term relationship. We're pals for a very long time. Let me just set this up with, I was at Fox for 11 years. The first time they asked me to sit down and host Bill O'Reilly's show when Bill was going to be on vacation, whatever he was doing, I was called up to the office, and this is Bill Shine's office, who worked right under Roger Ailes. And Shine's like, "You're going to be Bill O'Reilly's fill-in this week." I was like, "Holy shit, really? Really? This is really cool." I was a young guy, only been on TV a couple of years. I was like, "Yeah." He's, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "No, I'm not nervous. I'm ready to do this." And I said, "I only have one question for you," on my way out. And he said, "What is it?" I said, "Do I have to wear a tie?" And Shine says, "No, you've never worn a tie at Fox News. You're on the 5. You don't wear a tie on O'Reilly." Swear to God, true story. The phone rings as I'm standing in the hallway of Bill Shine's office in the doorway. And it was Bill O'Reilly saying, "Bolling's got to wear a tie if he's going to fill in for me." True story at that moment. And Bill Shine said, "Check that you're going to be wearing a tie when you fill in for Bill O'Reilly." Anyway, make a long story short, I go to meet the producers of the show as a host typically does. And here's what the kind of dirty little, quiet little secret that people don't really talk about. When the main host is on vacation, producers hate it. They don't even want to talk to you. They don't want to see you. They want to talk. They just want to get through the show. And I will tell you, of the probably 230, 240 times I filled in for Bill O'Reilly over those 11-year spans, Nate Fredman sat there and put together a damn good show every single time. When everyone else was like, I don't really want to get involved in this, Nate would spend the time. And sometimes it was Friday night, folks. Sometimes it was Friday live at 8 to 9, and he can get out. I mean, what a great guy. Anyway, let's bring in Nate Fredman, who has a long history, and we're very, very good friends. Nate, welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm blushing a little bit. I'm also like, you spilled the beans on one of the real secrets, that when there's a guest host, there is sometimes this like substitute teacher energy that everyone remembers when they were in school. They're like, the teacher's not here. We could sort of slack off, but we tried not to do that, and we did great work.
You're being generous. You're being very generous. It's more like when there's a substitute teacher, the kids just all hell breaks loose. And when there's a substitute host, it's like, the numbers aren't really going to count towards, what's going on. And we'll get into how important the numbers are. But can we let's hit the news of the day, because it's like pumping right now as we speak, literally, as they say. TikTok. So the Supreme Court has upheld the push to ban TikTok. It looks like it's going to go into effect Sunday. Very noteworthy. Trump is being inaugurated on Monday, 36 hours after the ban may take place, or may not, if there's any sort of legal wranglings between then. But Trump, it feels like Trump has been pushing to keep TikTok alive in the current format, whereas I guess bipartisan consensus on the Hill voted to at least have TikTok either sold or shut down. Your thoughts on TikTok, where it stands? What do you think? How does it play out, Nate?
Yeah, so just going back just a little bit, so your audience, they may know this, but this was a law that was passed by Congress and signed by President Biden. And then the Supreme Court just today upheld it. So there's a lot behind it. It's not an executive order. It's a law that was passed and upheld by the Supreme Court, which makes it hard to sort of undo very quickly. That's some of the very brief context. The timing, though, is interesting in that we know that President Trump is about to be inaugurated the day after that this law is supposed to take effect. It also happens to be, this is not a secret, but this happens to be, it is Friday right now, it's a weekend. Government lawyers, unless there is some very pressing emergency, do not work over the weekends. And Monday is also a federal holiday. So there's a little bit of time here to sort of wait and see what is actually going to happen. And Eric, as you said, President Trump is indicating, and there's some sort of sense, if you listen to sort of what's bubbling out of Mar-a-Lago, that Trump does not want TikTok to just go away. So that means that some sort of deal with the Chinese owners or some sort of sale to someone who is not Chinese. And there are many people who've been speaking out who are interested in doing that. And I think one thing we know is that Trump is a deal maker, and he likes to make deals and help make deals happen. And I think what we will see is some sort of deal struck to keep TikTok on everyone's phone here in the United States who wants it. And I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like or how that's going to come about, but that is my best guess of how things will proceed that's the sort of short and medium term here.
And I think what the hell is his name, Mr. Wonder, Mr. Wonderful, which I have a problem with anyone calling themselves Mr. Wonderful. I don't think they're very wonderful. It's a quirk I have. But he says he's got a $20 billion group of financiers who's ready to buy. But I got to think it's worth more than that. Nate, and just do a little math here. I mean, Elon Musk bought Twitter X for $44 billion, and I think TikTok is blowing X away as far as viewership or eyeballs or whatever, time on the site, no?
Yes. And it is also very unique in terms of platforms in that a lot of very young folks use it. It is hard to get the attention of young folks in general, as we all know, but especially when it comes to engaging them on their devices. And TikTok is the place they go, which also makes it very valuable. And I don't know, prices are all that's, Eric, there's always deals to be made, right? That's the publicly stated price. That could be a negotiating tactic. It could not, but there seems to be a path forward is a sale of the company to non-Chinese ownership. And from there, it'll stay, whether or not it's that offer, another offer, an offer we don't know of.
I wonder, and Nate, I wonder if I'm talking to one of our engineers, one of our control room guys, Ben, who's very involved. He knows this stuff inside and out. This moment, if there are 36 hours where you go to your phone and you hit the TikTok app and it's black or blank or stay tuned, whatever, there's real opportunity for other YouTube, Instagram, others to pick up some audience.
Correct. However, what is most likely not going to happen is on the 19th, January 19th, which is the day that the law goes into effect, the app is not going to disappear from users' phones. That's not what's going to happen. What is in the law is it has fines for, it's a little bit complicated, it's fines for Apple and Google from their app stores for people who download it. So the app will sort of degrade. But I think if people are worried that on the 19th they go and TikTok is going to be there, is not going to be there, that is probably not going to happen.
Got it.
You still have to see. However, with that said, there is opportunity. I think there are many TikTok users. I think the vast majority of them are not even aware of what is going on in terms of what happens at the Supreme Court,
Yeah,
the
even they're
law.
not watching Fox News or
I think just generally not
Bolling's
up on
program.
the, I think they are not generally or as well informed as your audience. So with that said, they may not even know that anything is going to happen.
Yeah, got it. All right, so you brought it up. So there's this whole new world order in media. Let's call it that. You and I spend a lot of time talking about this transition. This, I don't want to call it an exodus, but maybe a transition from hours spent watching broadcast and cable news to get your news to digital platforms. Tell us where we stand. What on this show, I've pointed out that there's a huge new opportunity, while widely open to us to gain some of the audience that from people who are pissed off that they were lied to during this last election, who are ticked off that they're being censored maybe on some of the people on the right side. In other words, they're not getting the real information, the real truth, or certainly not maybe the real host's honest opinions.
I think there's a lot to that. And I think so I think just to step back, I think your audience and all the folks listening and watching right now are already know and are sort of on the inside of this change that is happening. And the change that is happening is that there is this shift, a transformation in the way in which folks decide how they want to consume information. So it used to be, as everyone knows, we can go back a little bit. There were 3 primary TV channels. You turned on one of the 3. They had evening newscasts. They were all kind of the same-ish. You got basically the same information. You fast forward a little bit, and what you see there is you have the advent of cable, and there you had first CNN. And CNN was sort of the first to have a cable channel that was all news, and then there were competitors with Fox and MSNBC, and I think people forget Fox has not been around. In the history of sort of media, Fox has not been around that long. they are relatively new. They are relatively new, sort of if you look at the span of media consumption, but. And when Fox started, it was sort of there's some analogies for what we're dealing with now. When Fox started in '96 or so, it was a startup. No one knew what it was. It was produced out of New York. Fox was so there were folks working at Fox, and the folks who were working at Fox in New York City cannot watch the channel they were producing because the cable provider at the time was owned by Time Warner, which owned CNN. And they said, why should we put a competitor on our system? So that's some context as to where Fox was. It was a startup, a new place, had to sort of really fight to get where it was. And it offered a different product, right? It was also different. It was a different product with a different point of view, produced in a different way. And the reason I mention that is that is sort of where we are now, in that consumers, the folks listening and watching to this show, know this. This is an era and a time where you have more choice to consume what you want, when you want. And someone like me, my opinion is when you have more choices, it's always better, right? You want more options, and sometimes you don't like what you don't like what you were consuming before. Like you didn't like what you were seeing on cable or reading on different websites. So now there are more options where folks can get the information they want, how they want it, when they want it. And that shift is a threat to the legacy institutions that did exist.
Yeah. So allow me to jump in here, because I think you're pointing out very astutely that there is a shift. And again, I came from that world. I started at CNBC, then I went to Fox News, and then I went to Sinclair, which is a conglomerate of 210 local stations, and then Newsmax, and now I've gone digital. And with the exception of Fox, I'll be honest with you, I'm being completely transparent. This is the beauty of this digital world, I can be transparent, not worry about someone getting mad at me or calling me up to their office or threatening to fire me or giving me a week on the bench, which I did, which no one knows why or how I got a week on the bench. Maybe I'll discuss it later. Maybe I won't, but it was at Fox. But with the exception of Fox, I've been told what I can and can't. I've had guardrails my whole entire career, not necessarily at Fox. At Fox, you were a host and you knew what the POV of the network was, and you wanted to move up. You played ball, or you didn't, and you sometimes moved up and sometimes you didn't, right? But I was never really, maybe in a handful of times, I would get an email from Bill Shine or from Roger saying, hey, Bill Maher said something really nasty about Hannity. Let's hit him. It was rare, but it happened. But it was very, very rare. When I left Fox and went to these other right-leaning networks, there was a whole ton of censorship that went on to me. Is that normal, Nate? And does that apply to the left side of the aisle as well?
You know what? So it's hard to say, but what I can say with much certainty is the reason you and I, by the way, did not experience this at Fox is because I think some of the parallels with how Fox sees its audience and how their content produced is very similar to sort of how it works now in the digital space, which is that at Fox, you and I know this, like I'll explain to the audience now, this is something that most folks don't know, so it's a little bit behind the scenes. Everyone knows there's ratings, and that's how the networks decide how many people are, the ratings come out, tells you how many people are watching. That sets the price for how much you charge for ads. It's the core of that part of the business. What a lot of people don't know is that the ratings come out daily. So every single day, you are evaluated. So it's a job that you have where on a daily basis, you are evaluated. You know how well you did, you know how well other people on your network did, and you also know how well your competition did. So if you could think, anyone who's watching or listening out could think about the jobs they have, think about your job, and that on a daily basis, you are evaluated and your competition is evaluated, and that's public. That is how the business of cable works. And what Fox does when it comes to those ratings is, and this was sort of an institutional notion, still is that the goal was to win, right? And how do you win? You know your audience, like what is going to work, what is not. Some of it is like you look at the data and you're like, this worked yesterday, try it again. How do we advance it? Those kinds of things. Some of it's an art, like you sort of know, like, oh, maybe the audience is interested in it, and you probe it. And at Fox, that is ingrained in everyone from the lowest, newest person there to everyone high up, that is the goal.
What's funny, Nate, is that
and elsewhere it's different, right?
I'm gonna ask you something I've never asked you before. But no, if you, I will tell you unequivocally, when you're certainly at Fox, and we had the luxury at Fox of being the top-rated network for a very long time, so we were the leader. But within the hosts at Fox, the on-air personalities at Fox, you knew you were going to beat CNN and MSNBC. So this is a massive competition between ours at Fox, and I guess, again, you work with Bill O'Reilly for a long time. I'm guessing there was a competition to beat Hannity or to beat Megyn, and they had competitions to beat each other. I know at the 5, we were dying to beat you guys on O'Reilly. We just wanted, we get close, and it was, so the competition for us was to beat other hosts within Fox, and for producers, it was, I don't care about that. I'm guessing, you tell me, you're the producer, let's just make sure we beat the pants off of CNN and MSNBC.
It's a little bit of both. Fox was then and still is now so dominant when compared to those other two networks that yes, they always win. So yeah, there was, I presume still is, healthy internal competition, which by the way, it makes everything better, right? If you need goals, and one of the goals is you want to do as well as you can possibly do. And one of the metrics was internally as well, like are we doing better than the other shows? Are we not? Some of the there's some factors that make it hard. This in a linear cable environment, when you're on, who you're leaded, these things make a big difference. Whereas in digital, like here, those are not really things that that matter. But yeah, of course, it sort of shifted that, like, there was always that notion that, like, you wanted to win, you wanted to do well, and that was guided by the ratings, and whether it be internal, like you were saying, Eric, or external for other networks. That was always the case.
No,
It still is.
and I will tell you, folks, 427 every day. It was about the time the ratings came out. It varied. You know, sometimes they were delayed, and you're like jonesing. Where are the ratings? Where are the ratings? Every day it became such a scorecard, such a how did we do? How did I do? It's incredible how important it was. You know, Mark Zuckerberg was on Rogan a couple of days ago, and he said, and now finally he's coming clean, right? All of a sudden, then you and I have an idea of why this is happening now, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I want to stay on the relationship between the White House or the administration, or an incoming administration for that matter, and various media networks. So Zuckerberg says, we were under a lot of pressure from the Biden White House to censor, to pull what they deemed as misinformation off their platform, their servers. How close, we use Fox, how close are Republican White Houses with Fox? Do they talk to then Roger and now Suzanne on a daily basis? Is it just wink and a nod? Hey, do me. Where is that relationship between politics and the media? Certainly on the right with Fox, and then maybe on the left with Biden, Obama, social media, MSNBC. Is there open lines of communication? Should there be too, by the way?
So with Fox, what I know from when I was there and when you were there, what I know is that it's not part of this is this is the way that things work are sort of not often as either conspiratorial or as just simply interesting as people may think or want it to be. With Fox, and especially with President Trump, he or anyone around him does not need to tell anyone at Fox what to say or what to do. Does he? I have no idea. But the point is, he doesn't need to, because what the folks who voted for him think aligns very closely with what the audience who watches Fox thinks. So going back to what I said, if you are programming your shows and producing content based on what does well with your audience, there is, in this moment in time, a natural overlap between what President Trump thinks or wants. So it's not, no one needs to call up anyone there from, Trump world and say, hey, do this.
Maybe I shouldn't have used Trump, Nate, because he's a bad example, because he'll just literally go on, I don't know, Truth Social, or go on some Rogan podcast and rip Fox, and then they'll kind of feels like they kind of fall a little bit more in line. The programming gets a little bit more pro-Trump. Let me just throw to this soundbite, if you don't mind, control room. Nate, this is the interaction I was talking about. Zuckerberg saying that Biden was pushing Facebook in a direction. Listen.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They wanted us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says...
We'll come out of that, Nate, only because the operative part was that the White House would call and scream at them. I don't believe that they said no. They pushed back on the White House saying, no, we're not going to take down things that are true, because we can talk about Russia, Hunter Biden's laptop, the Russian collusion stories that they very much censored against Trump and against the right. But the point being, was that unusual, do you think, for a White House to be that involved in a media company's editorial?
It's an interesting question. I don't think, here's what I think. I do not think we have I don't think we have as much evidence that what Mark Zuckerberg was talking there is well documented. It was like during COVID, the administration had some examples, and I think that was pretty pretty explicit. How he reacted and how the platform reacted, like you said, I think your audience knows. So we don't need to get into that. What I do know, and what you know, and what your audience will now know is that folks in politics, Democrats and Republicans, have teams of people working around them, and the good ones, they are always trying to work the refs. So yes, there are folks from every White House, every senator, every House member where they have this sort of ambition to sort of get their own narrative out there. All the federal agencies, they're working the refs. That's part of their job, is they are trying to influence these events, the spin, as best they can for their interests. The jobs of people in news organizations who are honest and looking for the truth is to know when they're being spun and either tell their audience that or just say, no, we're not doing that. We're going to tell the truth. So news organizations, reporters, anchors are always being worked behind the scenes by all sides. It's the good ones are the ones who can cut through that and provide the truth,
well,
which is hard.
May I jump in here? You missed a group. You said news organizations, reporters, anchors, producers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes. And it's basically everyone who's involved in sort of the decision-making process. Mm-hmm. Executives, everyone. They're working the refs. That's what they do. And by the way, that is left and right. That is left and right.
Right. And by the way, yeah, I agree with that. This happens on both sides. You brought something up, being honest, being truth, deciding whether they want to or not. We've been contending, and I contend that there's been, the reason, some people are saying the podcast presidency, Trump won because he went on Rogan and Tucker's his pal. Maybe, I don't know, maybe. I'm not going to say yes or no to that, but I will tell you, I do believe this. And again, Nate and I speak very often about these types of things, that there's an overwhelming number of people who are fleeing cable news right now, looking for news from another source, because on the left, they were told Kamala Harris was neck and neck. It came down to swing states, and they were all, she was winning in few swing states and not in others. They were completely lied to. They were lied to, and they're pissed off, and they're leaving, and they're looking for a place to go. And on the right, you go, okay, well, maybe I don't love Fox, and there's nowhere else to go. So I think there's this big, and look, the numbers are there to prove it. In the aftermath of the election, Morning Joe, with his tail between his legs, goes to Mar-a-Lago, comes back, tells his audience he loses 40% of his audience overnight. Rashida Jones just stepped down at MSNBC because the numbers are so atrocious. CNN's talking about slashing salaries across the board. A momentary phenomenon, or is this really a movement to digital that's here to stay and will continue?
This is a movement to digital. It is here to stay, and it will escalate. I will say about the ratings, as we know, the ratings are sort of cyclical, if you will. So like generally, especially for media, legacy media that are ideologically aligned, like MSNBC, they'll see a little dip here. It'll probably, I think your audience may know this. MSNBC made the decision to bring Rachel Maddow back for 5 days a week. She was only working 1 day a week. So at least for the first 100 days, she will be back 5 days a week. That will probably help the ratings. They'll go up a little bit. But the ratings are not, so those are sort of the cyclical ratings, which do not tell the picture of sort of the bigger trend that you were talking about, Eric, which is that at the most generous read is that every year there's 8% decline in the number of cable subscribers. Those are the folks who are paying for cable. Mm-hmm. So it's going down. Mm-hmm. That number's going down. It will never go back up. Two
quick thoughts. Nate, I know I've got you a certain amount of time. You're going to jump up and kill me if I don't let you go in a minute. I could do this all day. One of them being, while we're on ratings and numbers and finances, we're seeing across the board, CNN telling us that they're going to slash hosts' salaries, on-air talent salaries. Fox, Neil Cavuto stepped aside. He was a vice president since day one. He was probably making a ton of money. He is now being replaced by Will Cain at 4 o'clock, who has indicated he wants to do some sort of podcasty type show, which is interesting to me. I noticed Cuomo over at News Nation also kind of makes the show a little podcasty at certain amount of times. Here's my point. Are ratings dragging down salaries? And again, I'm off a little bit of a tangent here, but we just found out that Pete Hegseth was making $2.3 million a year for the Saturday and Sunday morning, a couple of hours on the couch. It feels like everything is going to start to be in sort of austerity mode for a while. Is that here to stay? Will Anderson Cooper not get his $20 million next year?
That is a great question, of which I don't know the answer to. But what I do know is what you were just talking about is one of those very firm data points to show that this media landscape is changing in this moment in time, that all these legacy corporate media entities, they cannot support the payrolls that they had in terms of talent. That is all changing. We see that. That is not about Fox or cable. It's also a broadcast, folks on the Today Show. That is a shift we are seeing, and that is how the business is changing right now from legacy traditional media to this new digital media where folks consume what they want, when they want, via podcasts, on YouTube, et cetera, which is, I think, what you're part of, Eric. And that is another, if folks ever say, no, it's not happening, it's not real, that is a very firm data point everyone can point to and say, yes, it is real. Things are changing.
All right, final question, Nate. A little inside baseball. So Elon Musk jumps on board the Trump train in June, right in through there, maybe after he got shot, almost assassinated. Interesting. Okay, but people saw Elon as a protector of conservative speech, free speech, conservative speech. Jeff Bezos makes his way over there. Mark Zuckerberg makes his way to Mar-a-Lago, donating millions upon millions of dollars. Bezos gives Melania $40 million for her story for Amazon. The question is, what's this all about? Did they really just come to Jesus and realize Donald Trump's going to be better for the economy? Or is it a little bit more nefarious, and we'll throw it out there, the Section 230, which is that litigation Chinese wall that protects social media companies from being sued for some of their content. Is it a little more of that, or is it just they just started loving Trump all of a sudden?
So I think, Eric, your audience is very astute. So I am going to let them make a determination there as to which one it is. Though I think what we know is that all of these folks, regardless of their personal political beliefs, whatever they may be, they have a fiduciary duty to run their companies as well as they possibly can. And in this moment in time, for all of those folks, it behooves them to be close to the administration. So why do they want to be close? That is only they really know, and I think your audience could probably decide. I mean, and there are a lot more layers. There are a lot more layers there.
Oh, is it? Well, let's pull back a quick layer. Is the theory that if you're a social media, if you're Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or whoever, whomever runs a social media company, you're getting close to Trump so that you pause or delay the removal of that Section 230, which gives them quite a bit of freedom to post or have people posting on their networks, things that would normally get you fined or sued if you were at Fox or any of the broadcast networks.
Sure. And it's not just that. It's just the whole notion of regulation that the social media companies, especially Meta, are very clever in that their sort of publicly stated position is we welcome regulation. We want it. But they don't. And no company wants to be regulated to the extent that they could possibly be. And that is, of course, a goal. That is they don't want that. Meta is different than Bezos and to some extent Elon Musk, who also have or want large government contracts. That's another a core part of their business. So again, your audience can decide, is that valuable to those folks who run a business? And some of those businesses are publicly traded where their entire mission is to provide shareholder value. Or are they just ideologues who are doing things because they think that's right? I think your audience is very astute and can come up to a conclusion as to how and why these folks are doing what they're doing in this case.
All right, we're going to leave it there. My good friend, Nate Fredman. Nate, really good talking to you on this platform. Hoping to get you back in here for God's sake, this media thing this landscape is just, it's like an earthquake is happening. And we're trying to figure out where all what buildings survive, which ones are cratering into the earth. But we'll figure it out. Nate, really good having you. Come back, will you?
Thank you. I will. Thank you for having me on.
All right, brother. Talk soon. All right, folks, as always, Goya, our great sponsors. We love them here. Goya's been just wonderful sponsors since we launched, and they will continue. By the way, Bob Unanue, follow him on Twitter at Bob Unanue. Goya, I'm not sure the exact handle, but look it up. He's a great follow, great guy, great patriot, really religious guy, good man. In 2021, Goya launched Goya Care as a global initiative to protect children and educate children on mental health. Goya Cares is providing schools and community centers with a preventative education curriculum and a free assembly that includes the viewing of the movie, a short film called Press Pause by Goya Cares. Press Pause is intended to raise awareness regarding mental health issues, abuse, and bullying among children, teens, and in our communities. Press Pause is an educational film following 15-year-old Sofia Rodriguez as she navigates adolescence, self-doubt, and an abusive relationship amid her parents' turbulent divorce, set within the cultural context of her Hispanic family. The film explores her discomfort with unwanted attention from her uncle and the pressures of maintaining a facade of perfection in high school. It introduces the Press Pause campaign, promoting kindness and advocacy, highlighted by Sofia leaving a note saying, "You matter," for a bullied peer. The film encourages open family communication about mental health and culminates in Sofia's transformative realization of her right to seek help. Through the power of empathy and small acts of kindness, Press Pause displays the importance of being proactive in supporting one's community and underscores the critical importance of self-advocacy. All right, time for today's Truth Bomb. All right, well, when the lights go on, the cockroaches scurry. You can actually smell the panic in the air. So we found out on Thursday that the FBI, yes, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, shut down its DEI office in December last month. DEI. But they didn't actually give a reason for the closure. I'll give you a damn reason. President Trump got elected, but President Trump suggesting that the FBI shutting down their DEI office is not out of the good of their own hearts or the good faith, but actually an attempt to cover up what they had been doing. Saying to Truth Social, to demand the FBI, in quote, preserve and retain all records and accuse that agency of corruption. They're just trying to cover their tracks before Trump and Kash Patel take over. Yep, the rats are panicking again. Did you know the FBI had a DEI department, agency, office? Can you imagine it? Truth bomb. Here's the truth. My mind is blown. Boom. All right, that's it for us on Friday. It's going to be busy weekend. A lot going on in D.C. We're going to have a lot more for you. I'll see you Monday. Going to spend a lot of time with you on Monday as well. Something comes up over the weekend, we will definitely get it to you. Bolling out for Friday.